It's gratitude journaling time, 52 prompts and a year of gratitude, and I am on number 19. Draw something you have that you are grateful for. So I chose books, and these aren't necessarily my favorite books ever. They're just some that I picked off my shelf that I like, that I thought looked good together. I've always loved books. You know how some girls would go shopping as teenagers to buy new clothes? That's how I was, except with books. If I wanted to go out to a store, I wouldn't go to a clothing store, I would go to a bookstore. And I would come home with books, and I eventually broke that habit because you can only fit so many books on a bookshelf. And I do use a lot of electronic reading now, so that's stopped me from getting as many books in real life. But I love having books. I love having physical copy books and electronic copied books. Though some of my favorite books are missing from this pile, these are books that I like. The bottom one in blue is called I Love You, Ronnie. It's about Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan's letters that they wrote back and forth to each other, just little notes. And I like to call it the most romantic book that I've ever read because it's just so sweet. They just write letters to each other and they talk so sweetly to each other. It's really tender. So that's one of my books that I have that I really love. The second one is a book that my mom introduced to me, and it is so good. It's kind of a self-help book. It's called On Fire. It is amazing. It's about a boy that accidentally started a fire and he burned himself and his house, but his life was saved through his family members, and it's all about him surviving, and it's so good. It's definitely worth reading. And then the one in green is The Scarlet Pimpernel. And that's just a good classic read. I don't even know where I got this book, but probably Barnes & Noble or something like that. And the one that's brown is actually Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And my grandma actually gave it to me when I was probably around 13. I love it because I got it from my grandma. The last book is called The Witch of Blackbird Pond and is about a girl that comes to the Americas during the time of the Puritans, and she lives with her aunt and uncle who are Puritans, and she's kind of a free spirit. She was raised totally different from that, and it's just like a look into that time period, and it's kind of a fun read. I read it when I was a kid, and I just still have it around. Yeah, that one's a great one. I just love books. I think they're so fun. They have so much to offer and teach us. And honestly, I don't think I would know hardly anything at all if it wasn't for books. Everything I know is pretty much from books. I remember when I was a little kid, before I could read, my older brother, he learned to read really, really quickly. And I have this very distinct memory of being in our basement where all of our books were stored. And he was telling me how awesome it was to read and how wonderful it was going to be when I could read too, because books were just so amazing and you could learn so much and there were so many cool stories. And it made me really, really, really want to read, because he could read and I wanted to read too. And it took a while for me to learn. Reading was not easy for me at first. I had to really struggle for a while to get to the point where I could read. But I'm really glad that I can, and that there are books. I mean, if you look at all the time in history where there was nothing, and now we have books everywhere. We have too many books. You can never read enough. Before there was hardly anything and hardly anybody could read. So I think we live in a very blessed time that we have so much printed and have the technology to create so many books and so much writing. I'm doing this art piece with acrylic paint, which is the first kind of paint that I had ever gotten really good at using. I think the first thing that I really felt like I did well was this art piece that I did for my little brother, where I painted the Beatles. It took me like 3 years, but by the time I was done, I felt a lot better about painting. So that was a good project for me to get good at and to learn how to use acrylic paint. I think acrylic paint is a really good starter medium. It was a good place for me to start anyway. Doing this lettering was I wasn't sure if it was going to work out because I'm generally not super great at lettering, but it was kind of fun to try it, and it turned out way better than I thought it would. And I am doing it upside down because I figured it wasn't going to be much better if I did it upside up. So I might as well just enjoy the process of doing it upside down and see how it turned out. And it turned out okay for what it is. I can definitely say that the way that I view the world has been shaped by books. Books have taught me so much and have impacted my life in many ways. I've learned tons of things from books, and I've had my mind changed about certain aspects of life because of books. I definitely encourage other people to read books because they're amazing and they're all different. There's so many people that are trying to share their knowledge and understanding of the world. And here it is, all finished. The next prompt is, draw something you no longer have but are grateful you once had. Stay merry and creative.